If you guys have been hanging around the channel for a while, this is one of the trials that I watched fairly closely. It's Kim Potter, right? She's the taser cop. Oh shit, I shot him. Fired a single shot into stupid career criminal, Daunte Wright, okay? He was fleeing from police, okay? She thought that she was pulling her taser. Clearly, she pulled her firearm, shot him, and most use of force experts would say that she was justified even to shoot him, but because she made a mistake, a jury of 12 found her guilty of first and second degree manslaughter, which was a retarded decision to make in the first place because a mistake is not a criminal sentence. A mistake does not break the law. She never knew that she was handling a taser, okay? Or she never knew that she was handling a firearm. She was thinking that she had a taser. Every single thing and every fucking recorded piece of evidence goes along with that, but no, some scumbag's dead. Some scumbag who put a bullet in somebody else's head leaves him crippled for the rest of his life. Somebody else who held somebody up at fucking gunpoint, held a woman up at gunpoint and fucking rummaged through her bra for $800. No, we're all supposed to fucking mourn the loss of that fucking worthless piece of shit. Okay, sure, but it just proved that police officers aren't getting a fucking fair rap in Hennepin County. The same place where Saint Floyd ascended to the great fentanyl factory in the fucking sky earlier in 2021. But no, Kim Potter ended up getting sentenced to 2 years in jail. But when you break it all down, she will serve an additional, from Friday afternoon, 14 months in jail because of the way that shit works out there. But for completion's sake, and covered the case from beginning to end, so now we have the end, because who knows if it's going to get appealed. It should get appealed, thanks to what Regina Chu, the judge in this, okay, one of the most monotonous, monotone, laborious speakers I have ever listened to in my entire fucking life. What the comments that she was making during the sentencing was riddled with verbiage like mistake, accident, negligence, all things that have nothing to do with the charges that she was convicted on, okay? And the underhanded tactics of the prosecution in this, because they were trying to argue for, okay, if she was to be convicted, this was during the trial itself, they were arguing that she needed an aggravating, or rather an upward departure on her sentencing, okay? She has aggravating factors that led to this being a much more heinous killing than what is normally in the textbooks. And then when it came to sentencing, they're like, nah, she should probably just get to like the bog standard. That's fine. What she was facing to begin with was 7 years in prison, okay? And then like she got here because she got a downward departure because Chu was feeling generous that day, and she got the hundreds of fucking letters, and I don't know, she read an Obama quote and she decided that this really hit her hard and started crying. It was fucking weird, but... Or maybe because she was a woman, she got a downward departure, which 60% of the people charged that are women with these certain charges, okay, don't serve the textbook amount of time. They get a downward departure. Meanwhile, men only get a 40% of the time do they get a downward departure in any of this. But whatever, sexism in action. But it's a time that's spent in jail that's just long enough where you hope that, or at least the judicial system, hopes that this ruling ends up sticking in order to fuck future police officers, whereas an appeal is highly unlikely because the fact that it would hit an appeals court in a timely fashion, which, okay, it gets to the appeals court, the appeal gets granted, which getting up to the appeals court anyways, okay, it's likely that it would take a year to begin with, okay, and if your appeal's granted, guess what, you get to go through the rigmarole of the trial again, where you could end up getting found guilty again, or running another trial and get sentenced 7 years in jail. Like, there's not a lot to be gained by appealing this decision, even though you should, in order to make sure that future cops don't get fucked by this. But what's on the books right now? Well, don't be a police officer in Minnesota. How about that? Former police officer fired a shot. One single shot. It killed a fleeing man who was resisting arrest and had outstanding warrants, who had marijuana in the car, who was intoxicated. Okay, a lot of context is missing on this one. In Minnesota in 2021 was sentenced on February 18th to 2 years in jail. Kim Potter, who worked for Brooklyn Center Police Department, faced up to 8.5 years in prison. That would have been the upward departure, but that was never argued by the prosecution because they already got in their aggravating factors, okay? They got in the crash that happened afterwards, after Daunte successfully fled after he was shot, fucked up a couple of people that he hit, and also caused a lot of damage afterwards. But yeah, no, the prosecution got to bring in all that that evidence, and then that led to a conviction because one of the jurors who gave an interview after that said, "Oh yeah, she caused a crash that happened afterwards, and there were consequences that need to happen." You fucking brainlet. Anyways, but Hennepin County Judge Regina Chu said the lesser sentence was warranted because Potter was in the line of duty and doing her job and attempting to lawfully arrest Daunte Wright. When Potter fired the shot, one shot. That was it, okay? That was another reason to think that, oh, she really thought that she was holding a taser because one shot, okay? What people in police, in law enforcement, are taught: 2 pulls, okay? That's normally what happens because you want to stop the threat, okay? And then when you're firing a taser, like she thought that she had, she pulled the trigger once. There was no shots. Shot. Potter has said she believed she was drawing her taser when she unholstered her firearm and pulled the trigger as Wright slipped from another officer's grasp, entering the vehicle and started to drive away. Potter's attorneys pushed for no jail time, while prosecutors asked the judge for a presumptive sentence, which would have been just over 7 years. His life mattered, and that life was taken. Matthew Frank, who once again successfully conflated reckless and negligence in his rebuttal, his second closing, after stupid-ass Aaron Eldridge went up there and harpied for an hour. He misstated the law to the jury, and then they bought it hook, line, and sinker because somebody's dead, so somebody should be punished. That's not how that shit works, but congratulations, you got it. His name is Daunte Wright. He is a career criminal, and we have to say his name. Yeah. I'm sure the people whose lives were affected and the families that were put under constant burden after the fact, I'm sure they constantly say his name and constantly say it in the fact that we are suing the estate of Daunte Wright for some of that $27 million that was given to him by Brooklyn Center as a settlement for his wrongful death. And that's another thing. Civilly liable? Kim Potter could be totally civilly liable. But they ain't going to be getting fuck all from her now because she's going to jail on a 2-year stint, which she'll end up serving 2/3 of, as long as she maintains good behavior. That's how that shit works. So that's why she's only going to be serving 14 months because she's been in jail since before Christmas. So she has 58 days served. So she has 2 months off of that. Ergo, 16 months served, 2 months already credited, so an additional 14 months, so she'll be out by Easter of 2023. Defense attorney Paul Eng, who coughed his way through his presentation, beyond tragic for everybody involved, but he added it was an unintentional crime, it was an accident, and it was a mistake. And also, something else that we pointed as well, because in the day after, or rather, I think it was on the wrap-up of her conviction, Kim Potter's conviction, there was a picture of her booking photo where she was smiling in it, and I was like, what the fuck is that all about? Paul Eng also gave some insight on this. I haven't read ahead, and I don't know if it was mentioned here, but it was in the sentencing on this. Apparently, when she posed for that booking photo, she was requested by the person taking that picture to smile. So she was set up by whoever took that fucking photo, okay? And the fact that they published that one, you'd imagine that they probably took several other pictures as well. But even still, knowing that that was going to be plastered because this is a high-profile case, you fucker. You absolute bag of shit. You knew exactly how that would play. But anyways, yeah, back to what Paul Eng had to say. He added that this was an unintentional crime. It was an accident. It was a mistake, which Chu agreed with and believed that Potter was trying to protect another officer who could have been dragged and seriously injured if Wright drove away. Yeah, he was leaning inside the vehicle trying to stop Daunte Wright from fleeing, okay? That was Officer Johnson. He's with the sheriff's department right now. Yeah, he was halfway in. He could have been dragged. Looks like everybody recognizes that after the fact. And another reason why the justification of deadly force was present, but nah, scumbag was shot, ergo somebody goes to jail. Officer Potter made a mistake that ended tragically. She never intended to hurt anyone. Her conduct cries out for a sentence significantly below the guidelines. This is one of the saddest cases I've ever had on my 20 years on the bench, the judge also said. The judge, by the way, who was also appointed by Governor Jesse Ventura. Listen, Regina, I think you'd make an excellent addition to my bench. Now just don't fuck it up in the future. On what? On one hand, a young man was killed, and on the other, a respected 26-year veteran police officer made a tragic error. Again, error, not... Anyways, by pulling her handgun instead of her taser. Potter was sentenced after being convicted on 2 counts of first and second degree manslaughter on charges and shooting of Daunte Wright on April 11th, 2021. And then, why we're bringing this up? Because, yep, there were once again protests. A funny protest that happened as well. Protests looting in Minnesota after sentencing of ex-officer in Daunte Wright case, who we just can, I don't know, not even correctly spell right, but... No, there were black militants out there, and of course his fucking worthless family were there. Upset that their dealer is fucking long since perished, but whatever. Protesters in Minneapolis on Friday called for harsher punishment for former Minnesota police officer Kim Potter, who was sentenced to 2 years behind bars, 16 months, let's be fair, in the shooting death of Daunte Wright. And while the demonstrations were peaceful, no, there was looting, but it was mostly peaceful. Police confirmed that several looting incidents later that day and looters in the area. And also, I hope they bring it up, but apparently the entire Wright clan, which is 7 siblings deep, and weirdly enough, the parents are actually still together. But apparently Daunte Wright's sister was... arrested at the courthouse for acting up because, of course, these are upstanding people who, again, yeah, they lost somebody, but I think... the world is a better place for it. I hope in jail, when Kim Potter's there, she's put on cleanup duty because she does a great job at that. Potter was convicted of first and second degree manslaughter in the April 2021 killing of Wright, and on Friday was sentenced by Regina Chu to 2 years in prison, while the state recommended Potter received a 7-year sentence after arguing that she deserved a harsher penalty. Chu argued that this was a case of a cop make a tragic mistake, which should be line number 1 in the fucking appeal. A mistake is not a reason to convict, and it's more or less a reason why you should have just offered a judgment notwithstanding of the verdict, a JNOV, and set her fucking free because she didn't do anything wrong. Anyways, in drawing her firearm instead of her taser during a chaotic traffic stop, Potter has expressed remorse. A lot of remorse. That's her right there, and crying and screaming, and it was very, I don't know, unsettling to listen to, mostly because I just don't like to hear people fucking openly weep. Wright's family called Chu's decision to issue the 2-year sentence a slap in the face. Oh, okay, cool. What about that kid that's in a fucking wheelchair because of your angel? Potter apologized to the Wright's family and spoke directly to his mother, saying, "Katie, I understand a mother's love. I'm sorry I broke your heart. My heart is broken and devastated for you." She was far more emotional, but again, I know the totality of the situation, and she was very shook up by this, and she's been in solitary confinement for 2 fucking months because she's a police officer. In jail. You go ahead and connect the fucking dots. Wright's mother said that the sentencing that Potter murdered my son, I don't know about that. He was fleeing. It was kind of a hunk of shit. Adding, today the justice system murdered him all over again. Okay, they're fucking fat ass. He later joined a group of around 100 protesters chanting and shouting outside the condominium complex in downtown Minneapolis where they believe the judge lived. Oh, ain't that nice. Video from the scene shared by Adam Duxter, a reporter of WCCO-TV, showed people shouting, "No good judge in a racist system." Regina Chu, if you can't tell, is Asian, but there's also some fucking brainlets that are out there, which, okay, that's Daunte's mother, which should give you a little bit of a heads up. You got a fucking rotund white woman, okay? So Daunte Wright was a half and half, okay? He was, however you want to put it, half black or half white. Maybe it was half of his white privilege that superseded the law and got the female officer charged to begin with, and convicted, rather. Or maybe it was the black side because she got a lighter sentence. I don't really know. Play whatever fucking politics games you want. But yeah, some real fucking giga-brain takes on this one is, this just proves that there's racism between Asians and blacks out there. What? No. Well, whatever. That's your fucking brain on Twitter, I guess. This Icon beauty supply store was partially looted within the last hour here in Brooklyn Center. Owners called for the help, and it is now being boarded up, said independent reporter Rebecca Brannon in a post on Twitter, which she shared in video in the aftermath of the incident with signs of forced entry and broken glass littering the ground outside and items strewn on the floor inside the damaged business. Police told WCCO that there were also reports of looters in the area. Well, we know. Crime Watch Minneapolis account on Twitter reports of multiple people breaking into Burlington Coat Factory. Once again, just trying to get justice by getting nice new winter coats, I guess. It looks maybe a little cold out there. Or I don't know, maybe Katie Bryant had put on a couple of extra pounds and couldn't find an appropriate coat, so needed to just layer up, I guess. Separate post, Crime Watch Minneapolis cited police also saying security personnel in the East Lake Saint business said looters were shooting into the air. That's awesome. But yeah, I'm sure police were just like super excited to go down there and stop any of these mostly peaceful protesters. They don't want to find themselves on the wrong side of a mistake or even just lawfully doing their job and then end up getting slapped by Keith Ellison and his political prosecutions in the state of Minnesota, sorry. I know I wouldn't. Fuck, you do your job perfectly in Minneapolis for 26 years, or at least the outlying area. One fuck up, then you end up getting thrown in the clink in solitary confinement for 2 fucking years. Ain't that a bitch? That's why there were boxes and boxes and boxes of letters of support for from throughout the entire world, according to Paul Lang, in support of Kim Potter. So at least she'll have a pen pal or two for the next few years. This is fucking retarded. Her miscarriage of justice, to say the least. But with that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. Why don't you follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.